so welcome back to my channel. I am the Black Carnivore and really excited to bring you this interview today, which has been long overdue. So this is actually my first time. Yeah. I mean, this is my first time actually interviewing somebody that I know already. And so this is a pretty cool, but I don't know that I know all of Arien's story. I hear, bits and pieces as we do our live stream. So I'm really excited to give him the platform to speak today, to tell his whole story, and to let us know much more about him. So without further ado, Arien, otherwise known as Real Knowledge, at Real Knowledge on Instagram, please introduce yourself.
Hey, so I'm Arien at Real Knowledge on Instagram, on Facebook, just Arien, and go by Knowledge or King Beef and a bunch of other places. Actually, weirdly enough, had chosen the name King Beef before I even went carnivore.
Wait, what? That's not to do with your diet. Why were you King Beef?
No, so all right, so the Martin sitcom. So there was a character in there called King Beef, and I just thought he was so hilarious. So at some point, probably, this has to be over like 6-7 years ago, and I've only been carnivore about 2 years. I started, using that name, and it's stuck. I still find it funny to this day. So I just stuck with it. And then I'll go carnivore way later, and now I'm eating a ton of beef, and it just fit.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah. So,
all right, well, tell us a little more.
So, about summer 2018, I went carnivore. I had been previously some sort of keto since, I don't know what year, but I'm 34 now, and it had been since probably I was about 24, 25, so maybe about 10-ish years. I got out of college and started my first real job. Well, first like well-paying real job. And I was a computer science major. So I had a job programming and was just sitting at my desk all day long. And I have been kind of addicted to sweets kind of my whole life. It just runs in my family. So for me, it was Skittles and donuts. So in college,
that's an amazing combination. I love it.
Well, I didn't eat them together, although I probably should have tried that. I never even thought.
I know I've seen a Skittle donut.
Yeah, like some of the gourmet donut places probably have those. The weird places where you can also get like a glazed Fruity Pebble donut or something. So I had, in college, I would be like doing my assignments, like programming, sometimes late into the night with like, they used to sell Skittles, I don't know if they still do, in like 2-pound bags. So I'd have that 2-pound bag like in the drawer of my desk, and that drawer would be open so I could just reach down and grab some Skittles while I'm programming. And then while I'm at work later on in life, I would have a box of Entenmann's donut holes next to the desk, or on the desk next to the computer. So again, while I'm working, I'm just popping one of those in my mouth. And it's really...
How many boxes did you go through in a week?
I could easily go through 2 or 3 in a week.
Yeah.
It was bad. Like,
yeah,
give a kid with a sweet tooth some like real money for the first time in his life, and I lived by myself. I didn't have really anything else to spend money on. It was basically food and video games. So I'm buying everything as soon as I want, and I'm at the grocery store just like making all the bad choices. Like there's no one around to tell me no. So donut holes are getting punished, candy's getting punished. What else? Raspberry Danishes. Yeah.
Nice.
It was bad.
So how much weight did you gain?
I think
did you like keep it moderate? Maybe you were like, also like knocking it out at the gym every night.
No. I really don't like working out. It's just not, especially cardio, which is at the time what I thought was what you had to do to lose weight. I hate cardio. It's so boring to me. Excuse me. So No, I went from 185 in college to, yeah, I think I graduated college at 185 and I got all the way up to about 225, which not huge, but big enough that I noticed the difference. I could feel the difference. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's a significant difference.
yeah,
So, and how quickly did that happen?
um, probably over really about a year. Um,
Wow,
yeah.
that's fast.
And here I thought it was like, oh, well, it's because I'm out of school. So I'm not walking around as much. Like I don't walk from class to class all the time. That's got to be the difference. And I was like, no, that doesn't really make sense.
So you forgot about the 2 or 3 boxes of donuts a week. Yeah.
Well, right, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to blame it on something that was like, oh, it's just lifestyle, because that's what everybody talked about. Everyone said like
Right.
everybody was making those similar excuses for themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it felt. For a while, that was my thought process was, no, it's just because I'm not exercising like I should. So then I go work out.
So wait, when was that? That was back in, I don't know, 2000 what?
Oh yeah, probably, well, I graduated school in '08. So this is probably '09 or 2010.
Oh.
Um, so then I start working out and that doesn't really do it. But I did notice that after I worked out, I had the desire to eat meat. Um, so I just basically fed into that. Like, all right, so I'm coming home and I'm eating like 2 or 3 hot dogs. I'm like hungry as hell when I get done working out. Um, and even then, I still hated cardio. So I would like do the elliptical for like 20 minutes or so. And then like what I actually had a little more fun with was the lifting weights. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that wasn't doing anything. And I also realized like most of the machines will tell you how many calories you burn. And you see that you ran for like a half hour and you only burn like 150 calories. You're like,
Yeah.
this is getting
You
nowhere.
can't outrun a bad diet. No way.
Right. So you see like, oh, this doesn't work. There's no way this can work. There has to be something else. So I go online and I don't know how, but I eventually found the paleo diet. Um,
So
and
I'm
it,
sorry. So that was still back in 2010.
yeah,
Okay, so you kind of got on the right track pretty early. I mean, you could have wandered around in the world of Jenny Craig and you know,
right.
like what is that diet? The apple cider, no, the lemonade fast,
Oh
the master
yeah,
cleanse. I mean, you could have
yeah,
gone a lot of bad places, but you made it to paleo like
right.
right away.
Yeah. So I saw people who also gained weight either at the end of college or kind of fresh out, like in those first 2 years. A lot of us gained a bunch of weight. And there's one person in particular, this woman I remember, she did, I think it was the master cleanse, where it was like lemonade and cayenne pepper and like
Yes,
two
and
tablespoons of
maple
honey.
syrup.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And it sounded disgusting. It also sounded like there's no nutrition in that. All you're getting is you have a couple calories from the honey, and that's all that you eat. Like for how long? And I found out for how long. And she like was posting on Facebook like daily updates of what it was like doing it and how like terrible it was. But she did lose like 12 pounds in 2 weeks or something. And it sounded horrible. And I thought, all right, if that's what health is, well, not even if, like, there's got to be something else because that can't be it either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these
Yeah.
cleanses, this not eating, the starving yourself, that doesn't sound right. And also, working yourself out to death does not sound right. So, yeah, I've kind of been on a somewhat low carb train for probably about 10 years, I guess. Like, to varying degrees of compliance. Like there was a while where a few times where I fell off and just kind of ate whatever. But then I always knew like, all right, you've been lazy, you've been cheating for a while, go back to what you know works. Because I did paleo, and the reason I like paleo was because it made logical sense. Like,
Mm-hmm.
working out doesn't really make logical sense to me. Like, normal functional exercise does, but just the idea that you're going to, I think I made fun of this in one of our Zooms, like the idea that cavemen were like picking up big boulders and just putting them down and then pick it up again and put it down. Like, they probably didn't do that. They probably did work when work was needed. And
Yeah.
that was their exercise. Now, granted,
Yeah.
we don't live lives like that. So I understand putting some exercise into our lives, but I don't know. I feel like people take it too far. Hopefully that's not too controversial. Uh, but paleo made sense from that perspective about like doing things the way that our bodies, the way that our species evolved to behave. So eating the way we evolved to behave. We haven't been growing grains for any more than 10,000 years, plus or minus. Um, so don't eat those. We haven't been eating nuts for a really long time. Well, no, I think paleo allowed nuts, but it was like grains and dairy were the two things that they pushed against. And we haven't been frying food. So then if we're not frying food, then I have no need for seed oil. So then I'm not having any of that stuff either. So I dropped my weight doing paleo. I dropped down to probably about 190 or so. So
So you got most of the way there, actually, just
yeah,
eating paleo.
right. Um,
Do you think so? When you were doing paleo, do you think you were also in ketosis, or were you still eating enough? I don't know, whatever safe grains or whatever they called.
so I probably was for some of the time. Um, it wasn't it wasn't a regular thing though. It wasn't about trying to get into ketosis. So the way they taught it at that time, and I'm reading, this is like Mark's Daily Apple. It's basically my Bible at that time. Um, I kept my carbs below 20 grams, but the carbs I was eating was not like, it wasn't like I was only getting carbs from like lettuce, or broccoli. Like, I was still, because I was trying to be kind of low fat and trying to still keep under calories. Like,
Mm-hmm.
nothing that I had read about paleo was actually saying, hey, don't worry about calories as much as you worry about your hormones. If you get your
Mm-hmm.
hormones in check, your calories don't really matter. Like, that's what I know now. I didn't know it then. So I was still trying to keep under a general level of calories while also keeping carbs low. So I was still eating like
So you're
granola
keeping
bars.
calories low, fat low, and carbs low. It's like,
Right,
well, what? I don't understand. What's high?
right,
Air?
right. So I was hungry all the time. Um, I would feel good, and I wasn't eating any red meat, just about, because I hadn't discovered the wonders of red meat. And growing up, red meat was kind of, we didn't have steak much. We had ground beef and spaghetti, and a lot of people cooked meat too much. A lot of people around me, they cooked red meat especially too much, so I didn't like it. So um, Mark had this thing of a big ass salad, so I would always do that. So it'd be a huge salad with like 3 Italian sausages in it, and that would be great. But then it's pork; it doesn't fill as much. So then I'm hungry like 3 hours later,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's when I'd have a granola bar and try to make it until the next meal, because I'm not trying to snack too much because I'm still tracking my carbs and I want to be under the 20-ish grams. Um, so that ended up not working, and I kind of quit paleo and just kind of kept in a general ketogenic diet, like just being below a certain number of carbs. Usually, and I stopped counting. So that whole time I probably wasn't in ketosis, but it was still lowish carb. So that went on for years, and then I gained all the weight back plus some.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that takes me to recently, 2 years ago, I'm up at like 235. So this is the heaviest
Wow,
I've ever been.
higher than your heaviest.
Right.
Oh.
So I'm at the heaviest I've ever been, and I'm really not feeling good because at this point I've learned to make steak. I have learned to make ground meat, or not ground beef, but I've learned to make beef in a better way. I already knew how to do ground beef. I loved doing tacos, like tacos with
Yeah.
sour cream and a bunch of cheddar cheese. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
And I
I know,
would
I didn't even
buy,
need the shell.
yeah, but well, I think now I wouldn't need the shell, but back then I did. So I was buying the carb counter ones that were like 10 grams of net carbs, but like a ton of fiber. Um, so where was I?
So 5 years ago, you were at your highest weight. You,
Oh no, this is less than 5. This is about 2-ish years ago, a little more than 2.
oh, so you went rogue for a long time.
Well, yeah, like I spent a long time not counting, but still generally keeping my carbs pretty low. Like knowing that I can't, if I eat bread, I'm not going to do it multiple times a day. Um,
Okay.
I think if I like had oatmeal in a morning, that might be like the main carb of the day. So
So
I was
do
still
you think that
generally
that,
controlling carbs.
I mean, do you think that that slowed your weight gain, or did that keep you from gaining further weight, or what?
Totally.
Hmm.
I definitely, even me at 230, like compared to my brothers and my dad, like I was still the smallest out of all of us. Um,
Ah, okay.
so I could have gotten bigger. There's precedent for me to have gotten bigger. I think me, I kept a general handle on it for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, so what really got me down this path to where I am now was, so I got up to 235 and I'm eating steak. And I think I tried to, as far as I know, I ate a bad steak. And that like sent me into a digestive spiral. Like the steak had just been in the fridge too long and I kind of smelled it and it smelled a little off, but I was hungry and I didn't have other food thoughts. So I cooked it anyway, and bad idea, bad times.
Yikes.
Where previously I had known myself to have this iron stomach, like she couldn't handle it that day.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that led to me having irritable bowel syndrome for a while. Um, that
So
might
can
have,
you explain a little bit what your well, is it IBS, IBD, or irritable bowel syndrome is? Is it a parasite or?
so, geez. So it wasn't IBD. I think if it's IBD, you will actually like fail the clinical test. Like you will come up positive for something. They checked me out, couldn't find
Something
it.
like a parasite or what?
Oh, I'm not sure actually, because they never. I'm sorry, but the doctors didn't. The doctors I had at least did not explain it well at all. Like
Okay.
I told them my symptoms, and I was like, yeah, I'm having like bad digestion. Like every day, I'm having cramps after I eat. And they asked me some questions like, "Are you burping a lot?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's happening too." Um, and they're just like, "Well, as far as we can tell, like, we'll do some tests, but we don't know." And then I do the test, everything comes back negative. Like they tested me for celiac, and I think I'd have to look to see what else, but they tested me for some like either liver function or something else, and everything came back fine.
Hmm.
So as far as they could tell, every organ in my body was working correctly. So they had no idea why this was happening. Um, so they called it like idiopathic IBS. And they didn't explain. So I never got an explanation of where it came from. So even now to this day, like I don't know what happened. I know what I felt and I know what I was dealing with, but I couldn't to this day explain like, oh, so I step one was this, step two was this, step three was, I don't know. Even I'm guessing with the steak. Like all I know is I had that steak and it was like bad from there on. But that could be my mind trying to force a causation where there really wasn't one. Like I could have been bad days before the steak and just happened to have the steak, and also that made things worse. I don't know. I don't have a good explanation for it. It's a thing that I've heard a lot of people, a lot of folks who went carnivore, they've gone, or what started them was just feeling out of nowhere, like digestion gets horrible and they don't know why. And I also think part of that is because we don't pay attention to what we eat. Like when you're on SAD diet, you're just eating all the time. Stop at a taco place, all right, get something. Truck on the street, sure, get some food there too. Your friend's cooking, I'll eat whatever you made. I'm not going to ask you what's in it. I'm not going to ask you how you made it. I'm just going to eat. So we're just eating all the time and we're not paying attention to where anything comes from. We're not paying attention to how any of it's made. And there's so many variables that there's no way that we can pinpoint at any time what thing made us sick that day. I also think that we're just used to having indigestion all the time. I know I was. I know, I hope this isn't too graphic, but like at my job, public bathrooms, like you'll sit in one stall and just hear somebody in the next stall having a bad time. And that was a regular occurrence. Like it wasn't even out of the ordinary because I just think that we were all eating terribly all the time. So I realized, so the doctors put me on a FODMAP diet, which is like a really detailed list of all the things you can't eat because they could be causing your digestive problems. And it basically cut out everything, which was really hard to like. There are so many things, and they're naming specific things. They're not even just saying like, all right, so all of this group of food you can't eat. It's like no almonds, no macadamia nuts, no peanuts. Like it's going down every individual thing. And that's like too detailed for anybody to really adhere to. So I just tried to cook as simply as possible and I was still getting pain. So I started eating less and I could figure out which things were hurting me. So I found out that like, oh, soy milk, not doing it. I had stopped drinking milk because I was trying to be healthy. So if I have cereal, I put soy milk in it. And yeah, that tore me up one day. Or it might have been almond milk. It was one or the other. But I have done soy milk for a while too. It got to the point where I was basically not eating. But I realized that what I was craving was meat. So around this time, I think Labor Day or Memorial Day came, whichever one is in May. I always mix those two up.
Memorial Day.
Right. So I decided that I was just going to take it all into my own hands because clearly the doctors were not working out for me. I go to one doctor, a GI doctor, and he gives me the same FODMAP diet, but with more details. So it's even harder to adhere to. And then he browbeats me on drinking alcohol. He's like, yeah, you're drinking a couple times a week. Like that's not good. And I was like, oh, so is that causing my digestive problems? And he goes, I don't know. I don't think so. And I go, then what are we talking about that for? And oh, he was so rude. I wanted to fight him. And he just says, well, yeah, I mean, you got to work on this, but like, I don't want to see you back in here in 10 years because of this alcohol. And I'm like, but if the alcohol is not causing the acute problem, I find it really hard to believe that especially for the amount that I drank at that time. Like, it wasn't like I was drinking every day or something. And it wasn't like I was drinking a lot every day. Like, I'm within what, you know, the whole government system is telling me is okay for a guy to drink. Why are you browbeating me about that when I'm in here, like, with a problem right now? Like, I'm in pain right now, and you're telling me about what's going to happen some years down the line.
Yeah.
So I gave up on doctors.
That's so frustrating.
Extremely. Frustrating to the point that I remember his name and still want to fight him.
I find it interesting that you had this, these symptoms sort of essentially turn up, all of a sudden. I mean, even if it's over the course of a couple of days. But I have definitely heard other carnivores talk about, getting some kind of parasite or some kind of, that kind of problem. And, and then having like a night and day switch between, fairly good digestion to difficult. So have you followed any of those people? Have you looked at their stories, or how do you think yours compares?
The only one I've seen has been Saladino. I think that was the thing that brought him to it, was out of nowhere, his digestion got bad. I don't think he ever figured out what it was either. I do know that I believe I got tested for H. pylori and it wasn't that.
Okay.
As far as like other kinds of pathogens or parasites, I don't know.
Yeah. I know I heard Amber O'Hearn talking about her problem, and this happened to her after she went carnivore. So she is still struggling and still kind of, dealing and trying to resolve the problems. But apparently, it was pretty significant. So that's unfortunate.
Is she the one who was eating like raw eggs or raw meat, and that's what she thinks she got sick from?
I don't remember what she said. I mean, she is not as far as I knew, she wasn't like a raw foodist or, like a raw only person, but, would eat steak tartare along with, like cooked hamburgers and, steak or whatever. So.
Okay.
So I don't know.
It may be her, maybe somebody else. I do, that rings a bell. I feel like I've heard her story, and then it may be her, maybe someone else who had something raw once or was eating raw for a while, and then like through a bad time realized that that's not the move for them.
Well, that might have been me. I went through a phase of trying raw right before, the whole world changed. And so in fact, that first week I was going through it, and it was like, oh my God, this is like the worst time to have to go to the doctor. But yeah, I had to. And I tested positive for Campylobacter. I think that was what it was called. But it basically is something that resolves on its own, and I ended up fasting just to give myself a little relief, and it resolves itself. So, but yeah, that definitely made me think, until the world is a little more stable, maybe now's not a good time to like play
maybe
around
not
with
the
this
move.
kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Although interestingly enough, my doctor was like less concerned about beef and was, really concerned about eating an egg yolk raw. And but beef, she's like, oh no, it's okay. The egg yolk, what are you doing? Egg yolk, what? Like, I don't know. It's small. It's yellow. It doesn't seem like that big a deal. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense though. Like, I know beef is way less, unless it's ground beef, like it's, and even then, but so beef period is way less apt to be contaminated than your white meats. And yeah, egg yolks. I know people have said like the inside of the egg is sterile. That's fine. It's the outside of the egg. So if there was a way we could get to the inside without at all getting the outside in, like exposing it to the outside of the egg at all, like the shell, then you'd be fine. But it's
Yeah.
really hard to do. So I guess like you're taking a chance every time because you're going to crack that egg and some of that egg is going to touch that shell on the outside of the shell.
Yeah, I guess. Exactly.
Yeah. Um,
So so you finally got, so what, how did you finally start to find relief, or what actually happened for you?
so I actually did a similar thing to you, your recent episode. So I wasn't feeling good. I was feeling still terrible. At this point, this had probably lasted like probably 2 or 3 months or so. Um,
Oh, wow. That's
yeah,
a long time.
yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I had friends like mad. Like I would tell them about going to the doctor, and they were like, "Oh my God, I just like I want them to fix this." And I'm like, "Yeah, I feel you. Like that's what I want." And it seems like the doctors are just incapable. So um, I talked to a friend of mine who is she's actually vegan, but she is really into like um, holistic healing. Um, and she said like, well, you're gonna have to figure this out. And the medical establishment is not, they don't have what you need. And so then I went on my internet journey and found Dr. Axe, tried his bone broth. That didn't work. It also did not
How
taste
come
good.
you didn't do what the vegan friend was doing?
Um,
I mean, if she influenced you enough to get you to like take responsibility for your own health, how, I don't know. I just wonder.
well, so I still knew that man evolved to eat meat. Um,
Okay.
so even in this time of like not knowing what's going on with my body, I still have my, um, I guess at this point, they're kind of like principles. Like a principle of mine, I've talked about this on our lives sometimes, is like not biohacking. A principle is also trying to live um, to varying degrees, like closer to how we ancestrally lived. And that's like prehistoric ancestry, not how people lived in Africa 3,000 years ago, which, you know, would be nice, but probably still like influenced by a lot of agriculture and stuff. So like going back beyond that to how we evolved to live.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that, I know that like a vegan diet is not that.
Mm.
Um, so there's no way I'm giving up meat. And I just know like my body feels good eating meat. Even then, like I was nowhere near carnivore, had not felt as good as I feel now, but still knew like I'm not giving up meat. Um, Not without a fight. And I was still ready to fight to keep it. By this point, I'm feeling like, oh, what's going on? All I know is I feel decent when I'm not eating. I feel best when I'm not eating. So I just didn't eat for a while. And this is only like maybe like throughout the day, I may eat only once. It wasn't like I'm going to starve myself for days at a time. But not eating felt good. And then when I did eat, I'd have my problems, but still feel better for a while because I'm not eating. So then that holiday came and I just ate meat. Like it's cookout time. Um,
Oh, this was going into summer, right?
yeah,
So, yeah, so it was easy to just kind of eat grilled meat.
right. So like I think all I had was like hamburgers, hot dogs, and mustard, and felt pretty okay. Um, I think I may have skipped the buns that day. Oh, so there's probably cheese on them too, but like that was it, and I felt pretty okay. So then I kind of stuck with that, and
So the stomach cramps and the pain that you were having actually decreased, even just eating, cheeseburgers and hot dogs and mustard.
yeah,
Wow, that's something.
right, yeah, it was kind of amazing. Um, and I still had them somewhat. I still had the indigestion to a degree, but I think that was because of, well, probably my body may not have been ready for that much meat. Um, like still just being compromised. And I don't know if I ate exactly only meat. I know that I ate mostly meat, but I don't remember, like I may have had some baked beans too or something, and that would have tore me up. But I definitely felt better. So from there, I started looking up, like, I don't know what was the search. And I've tried to find this out. Like, I've tried to reach back into my history and I can't find it. Like, at some point I deleted all my search history because I really want to know, like, what led me from there, like, oh, meat made me feel good, to is this okay to do all the time? But I ended up researching, is this okay to do all the time? And I found that there's a ton of people who are just eating meat.
And
And
so what year was this?
this is 2018.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There were a lot of us.
Yeah. So I think I found like the zero carb subreddit, probably listened to a couple of Sean Baker interviews. That's probably around the time I found Saladino too. So I just started with the best of the best carnivore people, like all the most, greatest inclusive people who now don't piss me off at all. But
actually, can you clarify that just in case people don't get this the sarcasm?
yeah,
You
yeah.
just state outright that they are not the most inclusive and they do piss us off.
Right. Yeah. So Saladino, what kills me about him is, number one, he gets really deep into the weeds
Mm-hmm.
um, about like specific amino acids, specific fatty acids. That annoys me because it goes too far and it ends up not being like practicable advice. He really focuses on nose to tail and eating weird food. Like, he talks about like how he likes having like bull balls and stuff, mountain oysters, and other like other parts of the animal that, like, okay, great. And a lot of us know that, like, going eating nose to tail, eating offal it's definitely not a bad idea, but I don't think it's required. And he makes it sound like it's required.
Mm-hmm.
What else is weird about him? Oh, and then all of his talk about the pandemic has been really frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of these people that feels like we shouldn't have quarantines, there shouldn't be a lockdown, and it's hurting more than it's helping. Which I guess could be debatable, but also, like, it feels kind of flippant to all the people who know folks who have died of this thing, who are just
Mm-hmm.
trying to follow the rules, and whatever gets us through this the fastest, that's what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then for Mr. Baker, he fights with vegans too much. That's annoying. It's boring. It's not interesting content to me. And then there's the whole issue that started our group, where one person so he started this MeatRx group, this company, and within MeatRx, they have these group sessions where people are talking. There's one person who leads the session, and one of the participants in a session was talking about George Floyd and said, oh, it's so frustrating that there are all these riots and stuff all over one guy. It wasn't even that important. So the person in our group who hears that gets really pissed off about it and doesn't even like go on a rant or anything, just like leaves the session and then tells us about it. We happen to be starting Black Carnivore right around that time, or the Black Carnivore group, because you already existed and you were going by that name, but the group Black Carnivore, we're starting right around that time. And I think what happened after that, you reached out to because you were a coach in MeatRx, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you were in a coaches meeting and you told them, like, hey, so this thing happened. This person who, was in one of these sessions was very upset by how this person was talking in the session, and the person who was coaching did not shut it down. They just let
Yeah.
that person go and go on their whole rant about how George Floyd isn't important and all these Black people are rioting
Yeah.
and looting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the conversation got derailed into like, well, wait, what is racist speech, and what was
Yeah.
being said, when that really wasn't the point. The point was like, we went in a session that was supposed to be about carnivore eating, went into a whole different racial topic, which I'm not expecting all you guys to be great about race or really, like, you should have just shut down the conversation. A good coach would have done that. And instead,
Yeah.
we're now talking about, well, what's racist? Well, was what that person said, was it actually racist? Is it racist to say all lives matter?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then did you, yeah, you showed the letter and everything on your YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to
Yeah.
spill anything that didn't.
So yeah, I mean, anybody who's interested more in the story, you can go back in my videos, and there's two videos. One about where I just talk about racism in general in the carnivore community, and one specifically reading the letter that I sent to Dr. Sean Baker about what was so problematic about the events that occurred that day. But as Arien was just saying, that the issue was that a paying member of the community was just totally dismissed, and there was no effort to curb the behavior or address it or anything.
Yeah.
So, and I just think that's like outrageous. I mean, basically it sent a message that, if you are, if I don't care about you, then, your existence doesn't matter, your money doesn't matter, nothing.
Yeah.
So, and that's why, I had already started the Black Carnivore community because I felt that, our needs weren't being addressed, and this what just highlighted it. So, we went on to set up our own, group coaching calls and to provide support for one another. We do, you can check down in the description below, and you can sign up for the email list so you can find out notification about what the things that we're up to. We also have a Facebook group, a private Facebook group, and if you join there, you'll get access to the group coaching calls. But we're just providing the support and the total group that we need, and it's definitely much needed, because we have lots of people coming to us like, oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
So and just overall, certainly I have felt that, the leadership in the carnivore community has really behaved irresponsibly in so many ways. And, I think a lot of these guys are just, they're just regular people. And, now they've sort of been thrust in a leadership position without really thinking about how what they say and what they do impacts, the thousands, tens of thousands of people who are watching them. And so when you send a message to your entire group that, you don't have to be concerned with, with race and with how it's spoken about in a group, 50,000 other people are like, okay, that's right. So what is the message that you are sending? What kind of community are you creating by your language? And so I think that matters. And that's why, in our community, we are, responsible for the things that we say. And we think, deeply about the things that we say. And it's not just for views or, I don't know, ego or whatever.
Yeah. And I think what we found through that, like, that was the thing, because we didn't really start with the idea that we were going to make this like platform. It was just, we want to get together and just, I don't know, see how many Black carnivores there are, get us all talking, see what happens. And then seeing that, we thought like, all right, we need a space that is for us. And what it reminds me of is, I worked an internship with a big company, and we were up in upstate New York. And there was a good number, maybe like 8 Black interns who were there for that summer in this like super white town in a super white whole area, at a company that, at least that facility, that place, super white. So we basically formed an interest group, but it was like totally informal. But all the Black people who were interns there was one guy who didn't join the group. Everyone else, we all sat together at lunch. We all hung out after work. We hung out on the weekends. We found clubs and bars to go to. Like, we we became friends through that. And a couple of those people I'm still friends with now. But like Black Carnivore is the black table in the carnivore cafeteria. And it's needed.
Yeah,
And,
we're like the Black Student Union.
right, yeah.
The whole
And that's
white
what
school.
so like I went to a Black college, so I didn't need a Black student union. The entire school was Black. But
Yeah.
I've had people explain it to me that that's what a Black student union is at every other PWI,
Yeah.
predominantly white institution. Like it's where you go for that Black support, and it's where all your Black social groups start a lot of times. And yeah, that stuff is needed. Your Black professors are going to be a part of that. Like, it was too bad that we didn't have many Black people at that company working there who had been there for years and years, who could have been like our mentors. But yeah, we stuck together, and that's what Black Carnivore seems to be for me. And like, we need that space where we can educate ourselves, educate each other, support each other, and like about the carnivore way of eating. But also, if you want to spend some time complaining about COVID, if you want to spend time talking about what's happening at your job, like, we got you there too. That's not our focus, but we understand probably a little better than if you were in a majority group.
Well, and I think that's one of the things, like talking about your job or the stresses of your life, like that is entirely related to carnivore, which I feel like, kind of get just, brushed under the rug. But the reality of the additional layer of stress and challenge that racism presents for Black people is another layer of stress that doesn't just go away. There's no meditating that away. There's no getting more sleep for that. And so to have a space of people that you can actually talk about that experience and try to find a way to, empty the bucket of other stressors so that stress, is still just there, but not, overflowing the cup. Like, that is the benefit of being able to have this conversation with other Black people, instead of, people are like, oh, come on, everybody's equal now.
Right. Yeah, like that stuff was 400 years ago. You're still on that? Like,
yeah.
And also, like, having that social space where you can let your hair down and relax and just be your Black self, whatever version of Black that you are, gives you some more energy to go back.
We're the nerdy end.
Well, some of us, yeah.
I consider myself, being carnivore itself is kind of a nerdy thing to do.
I think so. I definitely think within so like in our nerdiness though, there is a range of like really nerdy to just a little bit. Like, I'm nerdy in that I eat this way, but other than that, I'm kind of regular Black. And then like, no, I'm really into this, and I can talk the science, and I know regenerative farming or something like that too.
Yeah.
But I think like having that social outlet helps a lot too. So to finish up my story, I ended up through Saladino, through Baker, I found other people that I now pay more attention to. And I think one day I'm just searching in Instagram because I just wondered, like, are there Black people who do this? Because I haven't seen any so far, literally none, which is a lot of people's experience with this. They didn't know that any Black people were doing carnivore until they met this group. And then I found you. And then through finding you, I followed a couple other people who are either keto or carnivore. There are way more Black people doing keto than carnivore. And then joined the group. By that point, though, I think I'd already been carnivore for probably like a year and a half or so. So at this point now, 2 years and change down, I've lost all the weight. I'm actually lower than what I was in college. I'm 181, but I feel like I I feel bigger than I was in college. Like I feel like I've put on more muscle, even though I'm smaller in weight. Um, I don't have the digestive problems anymore. That stuff cleared up like really fast. I did have to take hydrochloric acid for a little while. We talked about that on one of the lives or two of them. But yeah, so I did that for a while. I feel like I was drinking way too much water and I was dehydrating myself, because you can overconsume water. And when your pee is clear, you're peeing out not just the water, but also electrolytes are coming with it. So you're dropping salt, you're dropping your other electrolytes like potassium and magnesium. And I think I had done that to myself so much in my like attempts to be healthy that I didn't have any minerals. So I wasn't making stomach acid. So while I was building that back up, I was taking the hydrochloric acid so I could process protein and fat again. And that only lasted a couple weeks. From there, haven't had the regular digestive problems. And I feel great.
That's awesome. Wow. So you've come a long way, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And no cigarettes in the mix. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
for all you young people, that was a reference to the Virginia Slim cigarettes, which were a point of pride for young working women that were, in the 60s and 70s and going out there and making it on their own. There was a brand of cigarettes to support them through that effort.
Oh, that's what that, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
You didn't know? Yeah, Virginia Slims.
No, I thought you were
making the young modern woman who, was getting out there. She had her own, it was a brown cigarette, very slim, skinny.
So I had seen Virginia Slims before, but I didn't know they were marketed that way.
Yeah.
And
come a long way, baby.
Oh, see, okay. I thought that was a reference to our live about vices and smoking.
Yeah, and that reference came all the way from Vogue magazine circa 1968 or something. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, it's been a lot. Yeah, and along the way, I mean, while we're on it, so I was smoking, I stopped that. I just don't feel the need for it anymore. Never did smoke cigarettes though. And I have just about completely stopped drinking. Every once in a while I'll have some, but like it doesn't even taste as good as it used to.
So do you feel like carnivore, I mean, how did carnivore, lead you to sort of cleaning up all aspects of your lifestyle? Was it just like you noticed what it felt like to feel better, so it felt worse to feel bad? Or did it like take away cravings? Like, what do you think happened there?
So my theory, and actually I'm glad we talked about this because this reminds me. At one point I was drinking a ton of alcohol. Was going through a really big breakup. Girlfriend of 8 years. So basically what felt to me like might as well have been marriage. Like we lived together too. So that breakup, I feel like started me down the path of drinking way more than I should have. Like way more than, like I talked before about the doctor giving me crap about drinking and me saying like, well, I mean, I'm still within the limit. Like this was before that. I had dropped down to being at the limit. What I was at this time was way higher than that. So I'm like tearing my body up, not even realizing it. Like I'm just thinking I'm waking up with hangovers and that's it. And then eventually you build such a tolerance that you don't even have the same sort of hangover that you used to. In fact, probably more than the steak, I think that was what messed up my digestion in the first place. Like I think it was the alcohol, drinking so much alcohol, and probably the dehydrating effects of that, but also could have been something else too.
I mean, alcohol has been known to do a number, from, pancreatitis to, liver inflammation to, just ulcers, all sorts of things.
Yeah. So that actually, yeah, I keep blaming it on the steak, and I got to remember, no, it was the drinking. So that's my theory. Um, so I dropped down lower to way less drinking. And then I think what Carnivore did though was it just released me from the desire to really drink at all. Like I was just so satisfied all the time. Um, I didn't really feel a need for it. Um, it also it led me to figuring out like better ways to please myself and with life. Like although that breakup sucked, it was good because I needed to change my life around. And being single, living by myself, like made it easier to do all those things that I needed to do to change my life. And then once I had done enough of those things, and it took like this was a couple-year process, but once I did a lot of those things along with eating a ton of really good meat, my body just felt like I don't really want alcohol that much. And I just realized one day I was telling the person I was dating at the time, like, oh, I haven't drank in like 4 days. And I don't feel weird about it. I don't like have a craving for it. And the same with the smoking. It was just like, there's a black and mild over there. I can just very easily forget about it. And I had been that way with sugar already, but now I'm that way with smoking and drinking too.
That's awesome. So people should, I mean, I've definitely heard that in other contexts from people who are, trying to quit drinking, talking about going carnivore, just, totally ease the way. So that's
Yeah.
definitely, I hope that that message reaches somebody who needs to hear it, and help them to know that it doesn't have to be excruciatingly hard.
Yeah. I think, I think you can build your body up and give your body what it needs to the extent that you'll see, oh, your body will just feel like, I don't need that anymore.
Hmm.
I needed that for pleasure. I needed that for dopamine. I needed that for the euphoric feeling. And you realize like, well, I can just eat a really good steak and be euphoric. Like some of it is going to be, I don't want to feel the sickness of being drunk or the hangover after being drunk. I don't want that. But I do think another part of it is that your body just gets all that it needs and it's getting its pleasure from other places that are more productive, and you don't need substances to do that.
Hmm.
Hopefully. I don't know if it's going
Yeah.
to work that way for everybody, but, and it was a process for me. A switch didn't just flip. Like it was a while of also me saying like, I'm going to cut back on drinking. I'm going to cut back smoking so much. I think I'm doing it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's really, it's really amazing. And that journey that you describe is so, it's real, and it definitely seems doable. But, you understand that it takes time, and healing takes time. And do you feel like you're still healing, or, you're now two years in. So are you healed? Or do you feel like there's more still happening? You did just do a coffee experiment, so
Right.
that there's more experiments to be done if you want them, and perhaps some improvements.
Yeah. At this point, I feel pretty much healed. Probably, I'd say like at least 90% or so.
Hmm.
Um, I still have times where, so I've always had sinus issues. And I think that that's just a thing in my family. Like my brother, my middle brother, I have two older brothers. My middle brother has it like worse than anybody. Um, so he's regularly taking like an allergy pill. My mother regularly takes an allergy pill now too, and she never used to have sinus issues. So I don't know what is going on with us. Um, I do know that my sinuses were better when I had stopped drinking coffee. So I think it might be the heavy cream that I was putting in the coffee. And now I've reintroduced coffee along with the heavy cream. I'm trying to be light on the heavy cream, but it still feels like the sinus issues are there. So I may need to give up on heavy cream, period. Um,
I'm
so
sorry. I'm sorry. I
yeah, it's
know that
rough.
hurts. I know it hurts.
You know
But
what though? Quitting coffee wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be because my sleep got way better. I was drinking way too much coffee and my sleep was all screwed up. Couldn't go to bed before like 2 a.m. and I was waking up tired at like 7. Like, and I got to work still. Like that was not working. Now though, I'll say that I probably have the equivalent of like maybe 1 cup a day and sleep is still fine. Sometimes a little more than that and the sleep's fine. But so I could drop coffee altogether and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, or I could get used to drinking it without heavy cream. And I don't know that that would be the worst thing in the world. At that point though, I kind of feel like if I'm going to drink it black, I may just go straight to tea. So yeah, I'm playing around with things, still figuring out, I guess, like focusing on the smaller problems. Like, you know how you get like, what's it, like the 80-20 rule or something? Like, I don't know how to
yeah.
say it exactly, but a small amount of work will get you most of the way there. And then perfecting whatever thing you're working at is going to take most of the work. So that's where I am now. I'm mostly there. I'm 181 last I checked a couple weeks ago. I feel great. Body composition is good. I feel like it still could be better, but I still feel really good about how I look and feel. And now it's just kind of everything else after this is just gravy. And as far as me on myself physically, I'm still learning a bunch. And I feel like now my focus is kind of what can I learn so that I can teach other people better. So I'm working on my parents, not really working on my brothers because they're hard-headed, but maybe at some point they'll jump on the wagon. But right now, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so you pick your battles and you do what you can,
Right.
and so you're doing the right things. Perfecting yourself, starting on your mom, and see who follows along. But
Yeah.
I think you'll be surprised at who is watching, and I've been surprised at how many people I have been influencing in some way. People who I assumed thought I was crazy, but are
Right.
now, like, hey, I got steak this week. I got steak twice this week, and I didn't cut off the fat. So yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, sure, this is working. Great. I'm
Yeah.
glad people are listening. And I hope that, they start to see that, there's benefit to even just increasing meat consumption is beneficial.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I'm like taking people now. Like when they don't, it's happened a couple of times recently where I've seen people on Facebook just say like, oh, I'm just trying to lose weight and it's so tough. Or one person today straight up said like, I guess the only way I'm losing weight is if I just don't eat. And I told them like, look, what you cut carbs, cut seed/vegetable oil, and eat meat. Like,
Yeah.
start there.
Well, your little drawing, man,
Yeah.
that went viral. So so actually maybe I will I can pull it up and I can edit it into this video. But like, yeah, your little drawing of how you do the diet. In fact, can you just tell the story? Because that was so awesome.
Right. Yeah. I forgot all about that. So yeah, that's kind of, Arien coaching, sign up. But yeah, I had a friend at work who just asked like, hey, if you just want to, I'm trying to watch my eating. So if you see me doing something that's just like bad, like don't feel a way about it. Don't feel like nervous. Just go ahead and tell me what I need to hear. So like he was asking for accountability. And that's one thing that I'm good at that pisses people off sometimes. So I think one day, like probably a couple months later, I just gave him a note that I thought was like the best distillation I could give him, not as a person who wanted to go carnivore, but just as a person who wanted to get healthy. So I said I had this is probably backwards. So a more column, a less column, and a no column. And in more, I had meat and fat. And in less, I had starch and I think seed oils probably, or vegetable oils. And then in no, I had sugar and processed food. And he said he had just been following that. Like I talked to him like probably 6 months later, because then pandemic hits, I'm not talking to him. And he says he lost 60 pounds doing that. And I was like,
Wow.
holy crap. Like, really? So I'm like asking questions like, so what are you eating? And he's like, well, I eat a lot of chicken and I'm not really eating snacks much. But when I do, it's like this here, like it's more leftovers from the food I made. I'm not drinking soda. Like he was a good one for going into Wawa and getting like one of those big, tall, like 44-ounce Cokes. So he's getting a ton of caffeine and a ton of sugar in that. And I think making it simple was what worked for him. And I think that's what works for a lot of people. Like he would ask me and another coworker questions like, yeah, so what about diet soda? And like, well, one coworker has an opinion, I have an opinion. It's not like we really have studies to back this stuff up. Like the jury's really out on artificial sweeteners. So like nobody really knows what you can and can't do. So I think it's better to just not focus on that period and just to say, look, if you're gonna have something sweet, have a little bit of diet soda, I guess is okay. But like really, you should be drinking water. Instead of focusing on what you can't or all these specific little places where you can get caught up, like focus on the big things. The big things are if you're eating meat and fat, you're gonna have a lot less room for the other stuff. If you're not eating sugar and processed food, you're going to cut out so many things that you would be eating otherwise, that I would have to be specific about, hey, don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat ice cream. Like instead of telling you that, just don't have sugar. It's a lot easier to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I'm totally going to put I'll find the picture and I'll put it up, and, I'm really glad to actually let everybody have an opportunity to hear your full backstory and get to know you, because we have such a great time on the live stream and everybody loves it so much.
Yeah,
So,
they're fun.
yeah.
And real quick, I did not want to do the live streams at first. So I found you on Instagram, and then started following you. And I think you sent a message saying like, yeah, it's great. So you're doing carnivore. Like, so I think you were doing Instagram live interviews at that time. And you were like, we should do a live one time. And I think never got back to you. I think I said like, yeah. Yeah. And in my head, I'm like, I don't think so. It's not me. Like, as much as I'm talking right now, it's because like, I know you, like I'm an introvert. I don't just do this off the random. So, yeah, I was not trying to do lives. I wasn't trying to do the YouTube lives. Like I was saying like, no, let someone else do those. And a lot of this other stuff, like even like leading, I lead the Zoom calls now. I never thought that I would be doing
that. And you're really good at it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, if you're new to a Black Carnivore and this is like the first, interview you're checking out, you definitely want to get involved in the community and the group so you can spend more time with me, with Arien, with Deborah, and with all the other folks who are so much fun and so awesome.
Yeah. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They're informative and fun.
Yeah. We're a smart, capable bunch of people, we're no slouches.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a debate in there, and those are always good too.
All right, so I'm going to draw this to a close, but this is definitely not the last time we're going to have a conversation, and I encourage all of you viewers who are loving Arien's story, you can reach out to him on Instagram at @realknowledge or in the Facebook group and ask more questions. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Inbox is open.
All right, awesome. So thanks a lot, and I will be talking to to you, Arien, tomorrow,
Right.
or
Yeah.
maybe even tonight, and to all the rest of you viewers, I will be talking to you soon. All right, bye.
Bye. Thanks.